So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a bit of an experiment for myself. I'm going to see how many 8-bar loop tracks I can turn into 64-bar arranged mini pieces using the technique that I talked about in one of the previous videos of basically blind arranging a very small idea of multiple parts, and by doing a very basic set of arrangement tasks you can turn that 8 bars into 64 bars of quite convincing music as a starting point to maybe build an idea around in the future, but without worrying too much about it, without getting stressed out about it or having to decide whether or not it's any good during this early stage. You can forget all of that, you don't even have to listen to it. But what you can do is quickly build it out into 64 bars and see if what you end up with is worth working on at a later date. But you listen back to it later, you work on it later. At the moment, this is just the rough idea, and turning it into something that you can listen back to in a way that allows the idea to actually breathe a little bit and allows it to actually give itself a chance to sound like an idea rather than just all the multiple parts playing at the same time and the like. So without further ado, I'll start my timer on 10 minutes. This is going to be pretty rough and ready. There'll probably be loads of mistakes, files won't open, they'll try to save in weird places, but that's how things go. So let's start off with Fridge, which is in B major, and it's 117 beats per minute. So let's just drag that into Logic. Let's save it in the right place, which is my splurge folder of my automatic music machine. Save that. And now it's bringing in the GarageBand project, as you can see, loading it into Logic. Don't need the on-screen keyboard thing there. Let's just shut that because I don't need that project to be open, but I do need that one to be open. Right, so let's see what we've got here. We have got a, gosh, sorry, all the windows are going all weird and skewy. So there's a classic 8-bar loop. So what I'm going to do is use my usual technique. I will copy the same 8 bars. That's 4. That's another 4. That takes you up to 65. Then I will use the little button here just to squeeze it all down together so that you can see the whole track on one page. I'll remove the looping, which it adds automatically. And because I've done something kind of, creative, I've edited that file, I'll just save it in case some disaster comes along. But basically, my first few steps are always drop the drums in the second 16-bar cycle. I'll just remove the first 8 bars of that second half of it at bar 33. I then always remove the bass because that's just a kind of starting point. I can see, even though I have no idea what this actual piece is, I can see that there are quite a lot of notes going on here. There are chords. There's a fairly solid kind of drum line that goes throughout the whole thing without very many changes that I did when I wrote the idea originally. Bass line looks quite busy, so we can see here we've got a simple drum parts across the top. We've got quite a busy bass line. We've got some chords, some sort of pad thing happening along here, some sort of lead synth sound, some sort of marimba sound, which is probably an arpeggiated, quite percussive-y, kind of attacky sort of riff, probably an arpeggio. Then a line that is called a sound called Dreamy Bells, which I would no doubt have messed around with, but that looks like it's got less notes happening. And then a synth piano, which has got lots of busyness going on. Now, even when I'm recording and putting down my first original ideas, I always arrange it so that it's drums, bass, lower mids, upper mids, leads. It just means you can navigate the tracks consistently all the time. With that in mind, I will probably change some of this around a little bit because I think that the pad sounds should look as though they're grouped together. So I'll just quickly drop this Dreamy Bells thing and Epic Cloud Formation airy lead synth together. And now I'm going to start my editing with a vengeance. So it doesn't really matter whether you do this or not, but sometimes it's worth just dropping out the drums and the bass at the beginning so that it will start with a kind of melodic sound. On this one we've got quite a lot going on, and I think the piano is probably a kind of lead type riff, So I'll just delete all of those out. The pad what will I do with that? I think I'll drop that out. But I'll start the track with that marimba thing, and then actually I'll just start it with the marimbas and one of the two lines that doesn't have very much going on rather. Then I will delete the bass from that. That is allowing that second single Dreamy Bells line, which looks a bit like the Epic Cloud line there, to play against each other. Then we can bring the drums in there. The drums will continue to play. Then we'll bring the bass in. Now at that stage we've got quite a lot happening. Most of the idea is playing at this stage, and that's okay. One of my main rules is to try to make sure that at least one 8-bar section has everything playing, just as a reference point for when I'm listening back to it. So then you come to the bit where the drums drop out, which is one of my kind of standard default positions. As an absolute rough and ready thing, everything that's been playing for a while at that point, and just drop it out. Dreamy Bells, maybe that's been playing for a little bit too long, but that's okay because I can drop it out of the next bit there. If that piano riff was actually the main riff and it's really busy, it won't want to be playing all the way through. You don't want it to be playing too much because it's just going to sound really annoying. So I'll leave it in for the breakdown, but I'll actually drop it out there as well. Here at bar 41, just get rid of it there. And just create a few holes in the track around this point, just so that the breakdown where the drums drop out sounds kind of different, but has some relation to what was playing before. And the thing that's joining what's making the continuity is this pad sound here going through. That will create some continuity, but then it's playing for a while now, so I'll drop it out there. Now we've got the section where the marimba part's coming back in. These Epic Clouds have been playing for far too long, so I'll definitely drop them out, I think, and bring them in, let them play back in again at the end. And that is more or less the kind of bluntest way I can think of making a start on it, although to be honest, that's definitely played for too much during the track, so let's cut that out. So that's kind of how it's looking. Now a little bit of fine-tuning. What I always want to do is try and just pull back a bar or two from some of the drum parts. If you do that just by shortening the section, it just creates a little bit more tension. It kind of builds a little bit of mini anticipation before they come in on the bar of the next section. And you can do exactly the same technique with anything else that looks like it's kind of been playing for a little bit too long. So that, for instance, could easily do that on that marimba part. And if you do it to a couple of parts like that, say those have all been playing here for quite a while, you're going to be quite used to it by the time it gets to bar 25. You can build some anticipation for bar 25 just by pulling everything back a couple of bars, so it's just the bass line that's only just come in at that stage. That bass line is new, it's playing bar 8 at that stage, so by the time it's played bar 8, first time round, that's all that's playing. Ooh, there's a great big hole in the sound there, which builds anticipation for the next chunk of stuff to come in, which includes that pad sound and the pianos. So that will probably sound quite good at 25. Having said that, these will probably be sounding a bit boring after 3 cycles. So I'll do the same trick. I'll pull that back a little bit, and this time what I'll do, I'll drop the bass back, and I'll let the other higher register melodic parts just carry the tune forward up to bar 41, which is of course when the drums drop back in again. I'll just randomly pull out a little bit of that, and generally speaking with bass lines, the way I tend to write them, they loop around. So if you have at the end of the idea what is basically the track, well, the bass line is playing as before, it will lead you to expect it to start again. So I'll drop out the last couple of bars of that because it'll just drop the anticipation and sound a bit more like an ending. So with that is actually it. That's all I need to do. So I'll just save that. I will bounce the project as an MP3 from bar 1 to bar 67. Okay. That will now, Let me put that into my Automatic Music Machine splurge folder. So I've got the audio next to the project file. Bounce, off it goes. And how are we doing for time? That has taken, gosh, that's already taken over 9 minutes just to do one single track. So I think what I'm learning myself is that you can't do that many of these in 10 minutes. You can probably only do one. But hey, that's all right. When the timer goes and it's finished bouncing out as an MP3, I'll finish this particular video just with how I would then put it into Trello, so you can see exactly how that part of the process works. And then I'll work on a few more of these over time. But it's good to know that it takes 10 minutes to do this editing job. That is actually really well worth knowing. So with the timer ticking away, we can close that down now because we know that project is fine. What I also do for housekeeping, that was Fridge B Major 117. In my GarageBand folder here, I now need to tidy that up just by pulling the idea out and putting it into my folder that I've called Old. That just gets it out of the top level, and it means that it now joins all of these other ideas these are just the original GarageBand files off my phone, but they're now in an old folder because they're just the basics. Right, time is up. Great. That is enough of that. Thanks very much. So now we have in my Automatic Music Machine, which is this is the file structure that matches the Trello. What we've now got here is two new files. We've got Fridge B Major 117. That is the Logic file, the Logic X file that I just made, and then there's the MP3 just above it, which is the audio of that arranged 64-bar version. So if I now bring up Trello, what I now need to do is scroll to the bottom of my splurge column here, which is where the rough ideas go, and then all I need to do is literally line these up just so you can see them. Click on the MP3, drag it down here into the splurge column in Trello, drop it. It's created a card automatically called Fridge B Major 119, which is fantastic. If I click on that, you'll see those three little lines show that the MP3 is uploading. It's actually hosted on Amazon Web Services, but there it is right now. It's here. So there it is. There's my Trello card at the bottom of my splurge folder. So I know that that's the latest thing I've done. All I need to do now is give it a due date. Today is the 23rd of May, so I always give it a week, which is the 30th. Save, close, and there we go. At the bottom of my Trello, there's the latest idea that we've just done. That's pretty much it. So now I will go back to my GarageBand for iOS folder. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That was Bubbles was there before, I think. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 from last week that I'll be doing exactly the same process with. And that will get those ideas into both a 64-bar arrangement, which is really, really easy to work from, and it also gets it into Trello, so it's in my working process. There we go. I'll see you on the next video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and yeah, keep checking in because hopefully there'll be some more useful stuff that I'll be putting out in due course. Thanks a lot.